CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. This is Derek Thord.
And joining alongside Derek Thord here is Jarza Arlon.
And life is good.
Life is good. We just hung out.
We did. It was fun.
It was a good time. Yeah, I totally forgot the place, the name of that burger place. Like, I want another burger. Like, so bad.
Oh, from the food truck?
Yeah.
I think it was called the Angry Line Cook or something.
Angry, you're right. That's what it is. Ooh, I'm going to have to go get me a burger.
I'd never heard of them before. I don't know where they're like. I'm sure they don't come down to my area, but I don't know what kind of area they cover up by you. But yeah, it was a pretty good burger.
It was. Yeah. I would say that's probably the best burger I've had in a long time.
Sorry, everybody that did not take a picture to show you my food. Not that type of person, so.
I'm not really that either.
Not unless it was something like super crazy, I suppose. But
Sure.
beer, sure, I'll take a picture of that. Food, not so much.
Nah. All right, patrons, I need your help. And whoever is listening, Derek's got a very nice 5 o'clock shadow going on, and he needs to keep it. So please help me in my efforts to support his face hair.
I don't like it. You probably can't see it on camera. If you look close, there's some grays in there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah,
Just what it is.
You got a birthday coming up here in a couple months, so.
Oh, you're gonna grow out your beard for my birthday?
No.
We would be the best gift ever, to be honest.
I'm just saying you're older than me by 6 months.
Age is just a number.
True.
Well, yeah, we got cover reveals for the House of Chains and Midnight Tides from Broken Binding. Do we know when we are able to order? I guess I haven't really been paying attention outside of the ones that you send me.
I think they said it's going to be later this summer where they will open up pre-order. I think it's going to be like end of July or maybe August. I don't remember what they said.
Because that's what it was last year, right? Like we ordered at the end of July, August, and then it took them 4 or 5 months to get them to us. I feel like I just got those.
Yeah.
I still think Midnight Tides, that's a whirlwind of some
It does
kind.
look sweet. I think that one does. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going on. I don't know how much I really like the House of Chains one.
I'm not a big fan of it either. I feel like it doesn't suit it. I feel like it's...
We'll see.
Something just feels off about it. And maybe that's just because we don't know what scene it is, but I don't know.
I know Jan was kind of saying that he thought it was a scene we had come across, but then he kind of, I don't want to say backtracked, but he was a little unsure when he saw like the full wraparound of it. Because yeah, I was kind of thinking it was that scene on Drift of Ollie.
Yeah, where Quotillion comes in and he just kicks ass with his rope.
I don't know if that's what Jan thought at first as well, but then he wasn't so sure if it was something we had read or not yet.
Yeah, I mean, they don't look like Edur to me. They look like Andi.
Yeah, I'm sure it's one of those things like once we eventually get it in our hands, it'll be a different story. But I think, yeah, that Midnight Tides one looks sweet. And next week we'll get the Bone Hunters one, I would presume. Unless they're just doing...
Are they releasing them once a week?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're just doing, the next 3, unless they're only doing 2 this batch. I don't know. I would think they're going to do 3 again, but...
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm super looking forward to just getting that series all in the same format.
Yeah.
So I hope that they do the novels. It would be really cool if they did the Boschelane Coral Brooch ones, like maybe just even in just one giant volume. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, we'll take whatever I get, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess moving on to our patrons here. We've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Brian the Topological, Damien Facing the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, My Own Genesis, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, and then Steve Bottle Cags. Thank you so much. That is 19 names that I just listed off. And it's just now dawning on me how many chain or members in our little chain of dogs we have. It's not so little anymore. It's growing. But thank you all for your patronage. It means the world to us.
Absolutely. And Steve, yeah, you picked a good day to jump in. Just snuck in, able to get your name in the recording here for the first one. So yeah, thanks for signing up. We appreciate it. I think you're going to fit in good with everybody. Got you introduced on Patreon and interacting with everybody. I really enjoy our little community that we have, and I don't know like if anybody else is subscribed to other like content creators or anything on Patreon, but I'm hoping like what we have is a little bit different, in that sense. I truly feel like everybody here is our friend, and I love getting to interact with you guys. So, and ladies, it is a good time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're getting to the point where I would love to see it take 5 minutes to list everybody off. So that would be fucking awesome. And then yeah, you want to take our epigraph here?
Sure. Chapter 17. This is the last chapter of the subbook. I did look to see how long the next chapter was, and it's like 40 pages, so a little bit longer. But
Nice. I'm excited to get to that. I feel like these like 20, 30 page chapters are just they're flying by for me, and I don't like it. I need something to like slow it down.
all right, here we go. 7 faces in the rock, 6 faces turned toward the Teblor. One remains unfound. Mother of the tribe of ghosts, the Teblor children. We were told to turn away. Mother's prayer of giving among the Teblor.
I feel like that embodies what happens in this chapter.
Yes. Good.
I'm so funny. Okay, I'm done. All right. Chapter 17 of House of Chains. First section. Here we go. Karsa was no stranger to stone. He was nearing the completion of shaping his massive flint sword. To fight with such a weapon would demand changes to his style, as he was used to fighting with wood. He worried about the shaping of the pommel, but remembered his god's promise to make his blade unbreakable, so he dismissed his worry. He had no idea how much time had passed, as his sole focus was on the sword itself. The feel of his companions' ghosts resonated from the blade to his fingertips. He could feel Baroth Guild's cutting irony and Delum Thord's loyalty infused into the blade. These were unexpected gifts and made his blade unique. Among the Teblor legends, there were songs of weapons such as his. At that time, he had thought those songs were full of shit, but he saw differently now that he had one of his own. The Teblor never passed down their weapons. Their weapons were entombed with them after their death. Karsa never understood what a ghost would need with those weapons or other belongings used in life. The flint sword he had made to Karsa was unlike anything he had known or even heard of before. It rested on the ground before him, massive and brutal, and strangely beautiful despite the red streaks from the cut on his palm. He suddenly became aware of how hot it was in the cave. The 7 gods stood facing him. They held weapons similar to that of Karsa's, but smaller. Karsa looked up and said that they have come in truth. Uragal said that they have, and that the chains of the ritual have been broken. Another spoke, saying that the Warren of Talan has found Karsa's sword, and it shall never shatter. Karsa grunted and said that there were broken weapons in the caves beyond. Urigal explains that it was because of elder sorcery and other hostile warrens, as their people have fought many wars. Karsa said that this couldn't be more than true, as he's walked an entire staircase made of the Seven's kin. He's seen their kind fallen in numbers that defy explanation. The Templar asked what battle took the Seven. Urigal said that it didn't matter, and it wasn't Karsa's concern, as it was a struggle from long ago, an enemy turned to dust, a failure long forgotten. Urigal continues on to say that they had faced many wars. The Jhag were bound for extinction. They just sped up the process. But in doing so, many intervened in their path, so they slaughtered them too. Wars without meaning, wars that changed nothing, their very existence is resistance. Sabal chimed in to say that this is the lesson that they have learned, that in total, stone, sea, and every creature and animal all share that same struggle. Being resists unbeing. Wars of order against chaos and dissolution, these were the only truth. What do the gods themselves worship but perfection? The unobtainable victory over nature's uncertainty, order against chaos, structure against dissolution, light against dark, life against death. They all mean the same thing. Another one of the Amass chimed in, his thoughts as well. His words are of a droning chant, though. He talks about a Ragnag whose legs have been injured and now struggles to walk. He is distanced from the herd, but still walks in its wake, seeking protection from the herd. In time, his legs will heal or weaken. Both possibilities exist. However, it is the Ragnag's stubborn will carrying him on, for that is his nature. The eye, though, have spotted the Ragnag and separate it from the herd, but still, the Ragnag stubbornly makes a stand, hopes that it will be able to fend off its attackers. The eye are smart and form a circle and attack. The Amass says that the stubborn hope and hunger are constantly battling each other. Eventually, though, the Ragnag will become exhausted and stubborn hope will fade away, as it always does. Karsa said that their new master offered a haven for that wounded beast. Urigal interjected to say that Bayroth had taught Karsa to think, before Bayroth found himself killed. He compliments Karsa and says that he deserved to be called war leader. Sabal spoke in again, saying that the perfection was an illusion, and that their new master actually wanted was to be a third force against the natures of dissolution and order. Karsa grumbled to say that their master wanted worshippers of imperfection. Sabal nodded and said, well, yeah, that was correct. Karsa realized he was thirsty and strolled over to his pack and retrieved a canteen and began to drink. He returned to his sword and picked it up to study it some more. Urigal makes a comment that if the Amass weapons could have a god, Karsa's sword would be it. Karsa smiled at the god he had once bowed to. In a distant glade, Karsa replied that they were not gods. Urigal replied that they were gods, as they had followers. Sabal added to guide them. Karsa said that they were both wrong, as to be a god is to know the burden of believers. Did they protect? No, they didn't. Was comfort or solace given? No, it was not. Did you possess compassion, pity? To the Templar, to Lanamass, you were slave masters, eager and hungry, making harsh demands and cruel sacrifices, all to feed your own desires. Karsa says that the seven gods were the unseen chains of the Templar. Karsa's eyes settled on Sabal. He said to her that she was the taker of children. Sabal said that she took imperfect children who would have otherwise died. She added that they did not regret their gifts. Karsa suspected that they didn't regret their gifts, but the regret lied in the mothers and the fathers. The love of parents is a power that should not be denied. He tells Sabal that love is immune to imperfection. His voice sounded harsh to his own words. He tells them that they worship imperfection, a metaphor that had been made real by demanding that those children be sacrificed. Karsa tells them that they remain unmindful of the most crucial gift that comes from worship. He states that they don't even know how to ease their worshippers' burdens, but rather projected the Seven's burdens upon the Teblor. He asks Urgal what the Teblor did to deserve that. Urgal says that the Teblor have forgotten. Karsa cuts him off and demands to know why. Urgal replied that they failed. Karsa stared at the god, sword trembling in his hands. He realized he had been holding it in the air this whole time. He rested the tip on the floor. Sibel said that they too had failed long ago, and such things cannot be undone. She tells Karsa that their answer is that to fail is to reveal a flaw, and to not turn away from it, but celebrate it. That is the answer the crippled god has shown us. The tension drained from Karsa's shoulder as he said that he had his answer for them and the crippled god. His sword was not quiet. As it ripped through the air, it bellowed like pine needles set aflame. It wheeled over Karsa's head, then down at a slant. It cut through Sibel, diagonally through the chest, severing the spine. She had lifted her own sword to intercept, but it was shattered by Karsa's blade. The ruined form of Sibel lay on the floor, cut in half. The remaining 6 raised their own swords, but did not attack. Karsa said, "Bring it on." Urgal asked if Karsa would destroy the rest of them. Karsa looked down at Sibel and said that her army of foundlings will follow him, and the 7 are to leave the Teblor. He has freed them, and if they ever appear before him again, he will cut them down. If they walk the dreams of the tribal elders, like Liam Neeson, he will hunt them down. He took a step forward, and the remaining 6 flinched. He told them that they used him and that they used the Teblor, and for his reward, he was offered a what? A new set of chains? The 6 walked towards the entrance of the cave and then were gone. Karsa looked down at Sibel, and she commented that, well, that was unexpected. Karsa said that he had heard that the Amass were hard to kill. Sibel said that they were actually impossible to kill. They continued to resist. She asked if he would leave her here. Karsa said that there will not be an oblivion for her. Sibel said that once long ago, a sea surrounded these hills. Such a sea would free her to the oblivion he spoke of. She tells him that if he returns her to a fate and a punishment that she has spent a millennia escaping, that would be appropriate enough. Karsa asked what her new master, the crippled god, would think. Sibel said that it seemed that he had abandoned her, as there is an unacceptable level of imperfectionism. Karsa dissed the crippled god and stated that he was another god that just didn't know how to be a god. Sibel asked what Karsa would do now. He responded and said that he was in search of a horse. Sibel said that he searched for a jag horse and that they were rare and that he'd be searching for a while. The Teblor shrugged and then gathered up Sibel and shoved her in his pack. He took a last look at the cave and turned to head to the entrance. As he neared, 2 figures appeared suddenly before him. Karsa whipped his sword, the flat of the blade hitting the pair, sending them flying. That was long, but lots of gooey stuff. I liked it.
You did get hit hard in this chapter again with the longer sections.
It's all good. I think last chapter was yours, right? You had 2 long ones.
I don't really remember, I guess.
All right. Well, it's not a big deal. Part of the game, part of what I signed up for. No big deal. So, first thing that I have here is just kind of at the beginning. He makes this comment about Baroth Guild's cutting irony and Delum Thord's loyalty were infused in the blade. I really like this, and I wonder, and I can't remember specifically if when their personalities were described in the beginning of the book, if maybe that was used as foreshadowing, like using words like cut or sharp. And maybe if I do a reread or when I do a reread, I'll keep an eye out, so to speak, for those types of descriptors when it comes to Baroth Guild and Delum Thord in their interactions with Karsa.
I do not remember either.
I guess what I remember, or what I thought when I originally read this line, was just like, oh, I wonder if in chapters 1, 2, and 3, in Karsa's conversations with the two of them, if there are descriptions or words like sharp, cuts, loyal, synonyms of those words as maybe a potential foreshadowing to this moment.
I definitely didn't pay enough attention to recall that.
I don't think that, I mean, maybe somebody out there would, but yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
This next comment, chains of the ritual were broken. I'm not sure I quite understand how the chains of their ritual were broken, because I thought they were already outside of this ritual. Is this like a completely severed from the ritual, whereas before they were still bound but didn't like have to follow the rules? I'm just purely just going off of what Onrak has explained about the ritual. And also, how does getting their weapons back break that ritual? Like, that I think is the part where like I'm really confused about.
I think it must have something to do with the flint. I don't know. That's about the only thing I can think of.
I don't know. Yeah.
I reread this chapter today. I thought maybe I'd bring this up later, but maybe I'll just bring it up now. No, I'm going to wait. I've got a question for you, but I'm going to bring it up later.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I want to understand. I mean, it makes sense for what it is. I don't think it's out of place. I don't think that it's not where it's supposed to be. I just want to understand the intricacies of how that works. This part where the Warren of Talan has found Karsa's sword and it shall never shatter. And I'm not really sure what that means either. Is this them blessing the sword so it won't shatter? But that's the idea that I'm getting. And I'm wondering if you think the same, or if you have a different idea or theory as to what Talan has found Karsa's sword. I can only assume it means that that's it blessing it.
I guess, yeah, I don't know if it's intentional or not, or if it's just like a side effect. So I don't know that I really have an answer for your question. I'm not sure how it's working, but yeah, I don't know. I guess my question is, do you think it's intentional or accidental? I don't know.
I mean, from the way the scene is described, is that there seems to be, like a fire all around. Well, not all around, but there's a fire against some boulders inside the cave that is like warming it up. And this fire is unfueled, right? Like it's sorcerous. And I'm assuming that is the Talan Warren. What does it mean that it has found Karsa's sword? That's the part where like maybe I'm not understanding what the words are pointing to. I'm assuming it means that it's blessed, but I don't know. This part where, Urgal is explaining elder sorcery and other hostile warrens, I think that he's really referring to Omotos Falak and their war with the Jhag, but also I'm guessing based on some information we got a little earlier that this is including the Forkroll Assail as well. Because it kind of sounds like the Assail intervened on behalf of the Jhag.
Do you mean later in the chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like they were kind of like intermediaries or something. Yeah, mediator. But maybe violent ones.
Yes. That probably had their own agenda. After Karsa asks, what battle they fell to, Urgal's like, yeah, it's not really your concern. It was a struggle from long ago. An enemy turned to dust, a failure long forgotten. And I myself am really curious about this. And I wonder if maybe it revolves around my initial suspicion of around the birthing of Soul Taken, or it could be this Icarium plot, or potentially whatever they were doing with the Teblor. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I guess I didn't think too much on it because we know they fought like 33 wars against the Jhag, right?
Yeah.
What I got out of it is like the Jag or the Imus were like, yeah, we just fought everybody.
The world's police, right?
Yeah, Team America. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think too deeply on it. It was just kind of, to me, it was just kind of like, well, it was just one of these pointless wars that we fought.
Yeah. Do you think it's something that we've already been introduced to, or do you think that it's something that we haven't been told yet?
I guess I feel like maybe it's just kind of left for each of us to decide. To me, it could have been any one of those 33 wars, or, if they fought the Fork Rule of Sail, something like that. Was it the end of Memories of Ice, or was it early in this book where we found out that the one clan was just getting annihilated by humans? Or who was it? I think it was the end of Memories of Ice. Because they just lost tens of thousands. Who are they fighting? I don't remember.
I didn't think that it told us. Maybe it was humans. I think you're right. I think it's humans.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess I don't necessarily think that it was any one specific thing,
Yeah,
I guess.
They didn't really.
Maybe I'm not right.
Do you think we'll get an answer? Or do you think that it's meant to be left to the imagination?
I guess I feel like it's probably left to the imagination, but maybe I'm not right.
I feel like I feel like it's important enough that there will be a reveal.
I wouldn't be I'm not going to be like mad if there is or anything.
No. Speaking of the amass, this part where Sabal is like, existing resists non-existing, right? And okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Actually, kind of like super dig this. Why do we eat? Why do we sleep? Why do we survive? It just kind of makes the seven seem way more human here, which kind of just makes you go back to almost the foundation of compassion. And I find that super interesting because they are literally just, as she says earlier, by resisting, they defy whatever it is that they said that they were defying, So, but it kind of plays off this whole balance theme that we keep kind of getting. Like, what do we know about the crippled God? Well, he likes faults or imperfection, right? And so now we have a polarizing kind of cause and effect, right? Like, as they say, well, what do the gods themselves worship but perfection? And now we've got this crippled God and worshiping imperfection, being resists unbeing, and the ritual resists. So it's all of these themes of trying to break cycles.
I thought a lot about everything is programmed to survive, whether it's a plant, an insect, a large animal, a person. Why should they be any different? It's just that the Imus just kind of took it to an extreme, right? To eliminate pretty much everything else, or try to eliminate everything else. And now, they're immortal.
Right.
For the most part, from what we've seen. They can be incapacitated, but they're still just looking at the sunset.
Literally. Severed head, just staring out in the horizon. Yeah, it's just interesting, because it kind of it gives answers to a lot of common themes throughout the series that we've seen. How many characters have we seen defeat death with life, right? And vice versa. How many have we seen die and defeat life? The looming threat of chaos that we saw in Dragnapur in Memories of Ice, the flood at the beginning and what Troll says about nature, the presumed fight against light and dark, Andi and Leozen, right? So it's just kind of cool how in this conversation about balance, imperfection, perfection, yin and yang, it almost kind of makes everything understandable. For me, at least.
It is interesting just thinking about that balance, the act of trying to balance, because there's always give and take.
Yeah.
It's never perfect.
Right.
Or imperfect.
And I mean that speaks volumes to life as well, right? Addictions are just born out of an imbalance, right?
That's a good point. You're generally lacking something.
Right. Or just like passions, right? we do this podcast stuff, we read these books, right? We are out of balance with not reading. You know what I mean? Like it literally applies for everything. And it's funny, and I told you this when we were hanging out, but I'll say it here too, is that it was because of this chapter, this section, where I had a Mr. Erickson moment with my own child. And she was having a bad day at soccer, getting lots of penalty flags because the ref didn't have eyes. She was just frustrated about that. And in my conversation with her, I'm just like, you know what? Sometimes you have good refs. Sometimes you have bad refs. Sometimes you have bad coaches and good coaches. Sometimes they exist all at the same time. And the bad cannot exist without the good and vice versa. So
right.
It's funny how like you could take something from a fantasy book and really just kind of apply it to, real life.
You're becoming a philosopher, Justin.
I don't like it. But then this part with the, Ragnag's stubborn will kind of carrying him on, even though his legs are broken or weak or injured in some way, shape, or form. And I think that what this Emass is trying to say is that, like the Ragnag, they've become exhausted of being hunted. The seven are now tired of being hunted. Their fellow Emass inside the ritual still hunting them down are like the eye in this story. As he states, the stubborn hope, like it always will, gets exhausted and eventually they'll get caught. So I think what they're trying to do is, again, they're trying to break that cycle. They're trying to get away so that that stubborn hope doesn't give way and they'll get caught. But what I thought was cool about Karsa is just he very smartly interjects that the crippled god has taken them, shield them from being caught, because he basically says, well, the crippled god has given shelter to this Ragnag, which is essentially kind of a personification of the Emass, the seven. And, we know that the crippled god likes broken things or imperfect things, like the Ragnag having broken legs. So Karsa smartly applies this story to the Emass, but it also works in itself for the story because the crippled god would take this creature because he is broken.
Yeah, it's just like the circle of life, right? Like, I mean, that's really what I think it was talking about with the Reneg. And the only difference I see is like with the Telanimus is they're like outside of the circle of life. I mean, I guess they can kill, but
they can't be killed.
They can't be killed, and I don't really think they can create, can they?
Maybe. I don't mean bonecasters might, but this is where their existence is resistance, right? There is still like a I don't know, balance or chaos there, but it's not right. It's not the natural order.
Yeah, something's off.
Yeah. But even this, again, there's a lot of kind of explanations where Sibel is saying that, the crippled god, there's a third force against the natures of dissolution and order. Like that's what he wants to be. But I feel like this is manipulation from the crippled god's part. Because why are the seven buying into this though? Is it purely just for a safe haven? Like I can't believe that they would be that dumb.
Keep going.
I'm not actually sure there is a third element. Because as I mentioned before, the opposite of perfection, which it seems the current gods worship, is the opposite of imperfection. So the crippled god is trying to be the opposite of the current gods. But I'm sure that dissolution and imperfections are their own separate concepts, as flaws do not always dissolve or break away. But I feel like flaws is the first in the natural progression of dissolution. Like, take the balance of life and death, right? As we age, our body slowly begins to take on flaws, right? Our eyes get worse, our hair gets gray, our joints ache, etc. And then eventually worsening until death, right? So I don't necessarily think that flaws are equal to dissolution and imperfection. I think that they're a natural progression to those things, but I don't think that themselves are a third force of nature. You know what I mean? I think that this is him manipulating the seven.
I think I would agree with that. And that makes me think like I think of the Maib when you're talking about like the progression, getting older and stuff. Like she had, the advanced form of that. She wasn't that old, but her body was.
Right.
Then she gained those flaws. I don't know. I don't know if that really makes any sense, but that's just kind of where my mind goes.
But I mean, again, the balance, right? Her mind was young, her body was old. Right? There's an opposite, there's an opposite theme. Like you could almost apply that to almost any character.
Nice.
So it was just really cool how like this section is so much broader than just this section. Speaking of the seven, Urgal kind of later on makes a comment that if the amassed weapons could have a god, clearly speaking about Karsa's sword and how massive it is. And I love what this infers, that Karsa's sword is far superior to that of any weapon of the amass, as if it were a god of weapons. I just absolutely love that because it kind of makes sense, right? And especially what happens at the end of the chapter.
Well, even in this section when he fucking chops Sabelle in half.
Yeah. Right? And then he like, does one of these to the remaining six and they like flinch. They are afraid of him.
I mean, yeah, wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was afraid of him before.
But yeah, that's true. I would love to see you make like a rendition of Karsa's sword because it sounds cool and that because there's so much description to it. I would love to see what you come up with for it.
Yeah, even the beginning of the chapter is just amazing. Like he's just, again, if you haven't watched a video of somebody chipping away obsidian or flint, do it. Just go watch that process. Like you don't have to watch the whole videos. Just see how it's done. And the first paragraph of this chapter makes so much sense. He just chops away as he goes up the blade on one side and then he flips it over and he does it again. Like you could totally see what's happening. And I know that when we were talking or like when we were hanging out, I was talking about how cinematic everything is for me. Like I feel like I would do a pretty good job of storyboarding out at least the 4 books, just giving some type of visual representation to these.
That would be fun. It would be fun to collaborate with that on you. I think sometimes we get very different visuals for things between you and I. And I'm sure some of the stuff we align on, but I think there's probably moments where I get something really clearly and maybe it's not as much for you and vice versa, right? That would be fun.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is the demon thing. I totally fucked that up. But you didn't. I mean, you caught it.
What demon thing?
The demon thing.
Oh, from early in the water?
Yeah,
Okay.
So
I had a really good visual of my second section in this chapter. I don't know if you did when you read that section, but that was my favorite section.
He does enough descriptions that it's gotten to the point when I read other stuff, I get a little frustrated that I'm not getting that. I know that a lot of people make fun of the Wheel of Time, smoothing skirts and adjusting clothes and stuff like that, but it adds to the visual acuity of what it is these characters are doing, right? I mean, nobody stands still. That would look fucking weird. You would think that it was a statue and not a real person because everybody fidgets, everybody shifts their weight, their balance, it's part of being a person.
Yeah. I guess kind of going off that a little bit, I know people say that Malazan ruins other books and stuff for them. And I know you said you've had a hard time with other things as well. I guess I don't really feel that. It's hard to measure up to Malazan, even with where we're at, but the other book that I'm reading now, Conspiracy of Ravens, the last chapter I read in that, about had me in tears.
Jeez.
It was quite cinematic. It was quite emotional, and I wasn't expecting it. And I was just like, "Damn, yeah!" It was really good.
Well, maybe
Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Is it the first book in the series, or is
That's the Yeah, it's the only one that's out right now. The second book will be coming. I'm not sure when the second book will be
well,
coming
maybe
out. But
maybe then I'll pick it up. But yeah, I guess I've just gotten to the point where like I've let it go. I've just let it go, and like I'm just reading for the fact that it's a fantasy book, and I like the themes and the genre. So I'm just reading to read it so that I can absorb and just love it for what it is.
that's kind of how like I'm reading other books. Like I'm enjoying it for what it is, and I'm just that I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun with these other books that I'm reading. Yeah, dude. I don't know. Like everything's different. Like I know it's not going to be the same, but these other two books that I read in the series, the Union of Man series, like dude, I dig those a lot, and they're such a different style. It's like historical fantasy. It's like you're reading a history book almost, and it's really freaking cool.
And you like that stuff, so I mean,
I do like that stuff. Yeah.
All right, I think we're getting off topic, but yeah,
Sorry, I was just gonna say, sorry to get off topic.
This next part where Karsa is just like, again, you haven't played God of War, but I relate Kratos to Karsa almost, and just the way that he never walks away. He's always in somebody's face, he's making it known. He's very direct. And Karsa replies that they were not gods. And I just loved that cold iron in his statement. Absolutely loved just his defiance and his sarcasm all throughout this section.
But it does kind of feel like a quick about face, because he obviously did think they were gods for a while, and I mean he lost his faith in it, or found his own truth and that sort of thing. But I did feel like I don't know that I would say it was jarring, but it was noticeable.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked that he was calling it out.
Yeah. Right. Like, you are not gods. You don't know what it's like to have followers. Like, all of that was fucking awesome.
And I think that's kind of like I've told you a couple times. I don't really know how I felt about Karsa, because he is like this, like he's supposed to be a badass, right? Like he does these badass things. He's like the macho man dude, but he did a lot of horrible things, and he wasn't sorry for it. He didn't feel bad about it, and it's kind of like, well, maybe you should. And now I think he's kind of coming to that realization that he was doing these things. He thought he was doing them for these gods, and now he kind of realizes what they are.
Right.
They're, like you said, they're not gods. And I still don't know that he necessarily feels sorry for what he did, but maybe he's realizing, like, okay, I did these actions for what I thought was the right thing, but maybe it wasn't. So maybe there's a little bit of reservation or something.
Maybe, but I also think that Karsa's had a long time to really delve into this, to the point where there's been a lot of time from the beginning of the book to now, and the seven have just been waiting for this moment, and Karsa in the middle just kind of was on a hiatus, right? And I think during that time, he's had a lot of opportunities to think, to talk with his friends, his companions, whether that's insanity or whether that is because they're actually there in some way, shape, or form. But I think that along with forgiving or asking for forgiveness from his companions, he has learned to forgive himself. And I think that's kind of what has allowed him to really take a look at what it is that he's done, and kind of think critically about why those actions took place,
See, to me, I don't know that I feel like he's forgiven himself. I think maybe he recognizes that they weren't good things. But I guess I don't know that to me, I don't know how much I feel like he's forgiven himself.
Gotcha.
I think there's some like inner reflection there for sure, but I don't know if it. To me, I don't know that I feel like it goes that far.
I mean, who knows? I mean, these are all off-screen interpretations, so.
Right, exactly. It's I mean, how do you feel about it? How do I feel about it? For sure.
So this part where, Sibel said that she took imperfect children, kind of mirroring the crippled god did with the seven, right? Who would have otherwise died. She added that they did not regret their gifts. And I feel like at the beginning we were kind of unsure whether these children were alive or dead, but I think that this answers this.
That they're like dead.
I think
You're not feeling that way?
I think they're alive.
Oh.
Sibel said that she took the imperfect children who would have otherwise died.
So she's just got like a bunch of South Park Timmies running around?
Pretty much, I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know how she's feeding them or like how she was able to keep them so secluded or hidden. I could be wrong. I don't really care if they're alive or dead. I mean,
it's just interesting. We're on the opposite side of the spectrum there from each other.
Right. I'm literally reading you the exact words from the book, and we still.
That's the best part.
This part where Karsa wants to know why they picked on the Teblar, and Urgal replies that they have failed. I feel like our theory or your theory, I don't even remember who it is at this point, is that the Jhag is a mixture of Teblar or Teblar ancestors and Jaghut. What if by failed, the Teblar or their ancestors were conscripted to find or fight the Jaghut, but in doing so ended up having compassion for their situation, for the Jaghut, and began to procreate with them, thus making the Amass and the Seven very upset. My guess is that Carium, who is an offspring of a Teblar ancestor and a Jaghut, was maybe a tool in the plot to wipe out the Teblar and make them forget. And then he himself is plagued with loss of memories to ensure that the Teblar never find out. Because he's the only one who witnessed outside of the seven themselves, right?
I don't know that I'm necessarily following.
So what I'm saying is that
dumb it down for me a little bit.
I don't even know if I can dumb it down for myself. What I'm thinking is that the Teblar and their ancestors were once allies to the Amass, and they were tasked in helping the Amass eliminate the Jaghut. But I think that what Urgal means by they failed, right? I mean, this is coming from the Seven's perspective, is that they failed to kill the Jaghut and had compassion for them instead, thus procreating with them, creating a new culture, a new race, whatever have you. Like, if I was the Amass, like, I sent my dogs to go find my enemy, and they ended up fucking the enemy and procreating with them, I'd be pretty pissed off. And not just like the level of angry that I'm just going to kill you and be done with it. Like, I'm going to fuck with your entire lineage now. So what better way than to make one of your own do it to you? Maybe that's just me and my fucked up thinking, but that's kind of where I was going with that.
I did not know what to think when he was talking about them failing. That's as good a theory, better than a better theory than I came up with. I didn't have anything, so
I'm just going back to, like, it sounds like Icarium had something to do with the Teblar laws, going back to the beginning of the book, right? Like, Icarium is a part of Teblar legend. So clearly he had to have to do something, but why would he be cursed with memory loss? Because the Seven or whoever don't want him to remember.
I feel like he must have done something. Well, I mean, it's been alluded to that that Icarium's done something terrible, right?
Right, yeah. Like, he's destroyed towns, civilizations, right? like they came across their ruins in Deadhouse Gate somewhere. My guess is that was probably a Teblor town or city or Thelum and Toblakai or Trell or blah.
But I'm kind of wondering now, do you think it was more his own trauma that he can't remember this? Or do you think it was like, I guess, for lack of a better term, like a curse that somebody put on him that he doesn't remember?
I think it's a curse. I definitely do think it's a curse. And even in I think it was chapter the one where Icarium and Karsa duke it out. I don't remember what chapter it was. I know, right?
Holy cow! That's the first time you don't remember a chapter.
I know.
Shame. But
yeah, Mappo makes a statement about their curses converging. That's kind of what makes me think that Icarium just doesn't have shitty memory. Like it's forced upon him. Anyway, I feel like almost an hour of talking about one section is probably bad. So I've got a few left here.
Well, that's all right. We got 7 pages on this document and we're on page like 4 or 5. So
wow. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like this first 3 sections were pretty heavy in this one, especially because there was like a lot of things to digest. But Sibel kind of adds that the 7 had failed long ago and such things couldn't be undone. And she kind of tells Karsa that like to fail is to reveal a flaw and to not turn away from it, but to like celebrate it, like learn from it is kind of what I'm taking. And that is what she is saying the crippled god has shown them. And it sucks. Like maybe I'm interpreting this, but I kind of agree with all of this. Vowing to never make the same mistake again gets you only so far. From this, I'm seeing, learning from your mistakes, however, or learning from your mistakes rather than like get lost in what you did and vowing to never doing again, I think is the better route. And I feel like most people would agree with me. However,
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I feel there's a twist here because it seems to me that they're running the same scam, but with different players.
I mean, if it works on one person.
Right. Exactly. This part where Sibel, after she's cut, she obviously raises her sword to like defend herself, but it obviously wasn't enough and was shattered by Karsa's blade. And in my comment, I was like a god. So I thought that was cool how it kind of referred back to Urgal's statement about Karsa's sword being a god, and then you actually see it break another one, And then we get to the part where Sibel and Karsa are conversing. Karsa asks her, like, "Oh, well, what does your master think?" And she reveals that he had abandoned her because there's a level of imperfection that is unacceptable. Karsa's right. He kind of jives at the crippled god and states that he was just another god that didn't know how to be a god. I think it's just funny how he could be that selective. And I'm going to go with that, like, not everything applies and not all flaws are treated the same, which I would agree with Karsa in his statement then.
I mean, a flaw is a flaw, right? I mean, obviously, like, some disabilities are worse than others, if you want to call that like a flaw, I guess. That's not a perfect, like, comparison, I guess, but just coming right off the top of my head, that's the best I got.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to sound insensitive or anything. Maybe that sounds a little rough.
I mean, it is because she had just spent, all of them have been like essentially trying to convince Karsa of how good the crippled god is. And then you get to this and it's like, oh, well, there's actually a level of imperfection that he doesn't accept. It's just.
Oh, you're missing both your legs? Sorry, can't do it.
Right. And then my last thought, and then I'll let you do your shorty, and then I'll be back at it.
Okay.
Is the Teblor shrugged and then gathered up Sabal and shoved him in his pack. And that's twice that he's done something like that. And I just want to know if there's a rhyme or reason to it.
Yes.
Because he did it with Silgar. Like, why is he saving them for later? It's like a crumb in your beard.
I remember after reading that, I texted you and I said, more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. You think he's gonna like Frankenstein these things together?
I don't know what he's gonna do. It's kind of annoying what's happening. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to Rafa, right?
I guess so.
I feel like it's been a minute since we've done that.
I feel like we say it at least once a chapter.
I feel like it's been a minute since we've said it, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah, I do have a shorter here. You ready for me?
Ready when you are.
We'll have about 30 seconds here, and then we'll be back to you. It's just how the cookie crumbles, my friend.
That's right.
Troll groaned as he opened his eyes, his head in pain as he looked around, though it was Anrak who took the worst of the blow. Even at that, Troll thought some of his ribs were bruised, if not cracked. Anrak slowly regained his footing. Troll spat on the ground and said he would have knocked first if he knew the door was barred. Damn Theloman Tolakai. Anrak's head snapped and looked up at the cave. Troll asked what was up. Was he coming back to finish them off? Anrak said no. In the cave, the warren of Teland lingers. Troll said, what about it? Anrak said nothing and began climbing up the slope. Frustrated and trying to catch his breath, Troll reluctantly followed. When Troll made it to the cave, he was startled when he saw Anrak in a fire, engulfed by rainbow-hued flames. In Anrak's hand, he held what was left of one of his own kind. As Troll stepped forward, he slipped on flint chips, which did no favors to his ribs. Once he was able to get back on his feet, the air was hot as a forge. Just then, the strange fire went out and the cave was dark. Hands closed on Troll's shoulder and said the renegades had fled, but they were close. Troll said to lead on, but then did a double take as he realized it was a pair of hands that had grasped his shoulders.
Ooh.
Yeah, real short section here to break up yours. I only had two thoughts. Troll, they just get, cold cocked in the face here, basically. And Anrak looks up, at this cave, and Troll's like, well, what's going on? Is he coming back to finish us off? And I just appreciated, I took it as humor. And maybe it's kind of serious, but I feel like it was more humor than seriousness.
I mean, maybe to us, the reader, but in this situation, I don't know if that was humor.
I just feel like you maybe would have worded it differently, but maybe not. And then my other thought here, I didn't catch it my first read through. I don't know if you did or didn't, but when I was summarizing it, I caught it and I kind of had to do like a double take because I forgot that Anrak lost an arm. And so I was like, oh shit. But do you think it was like it had to be Sibel's limb, right?
Yeah.
And not like the skeletal or the non-skeletal form of Anrak.
So you think it's him like as a human?
I don't really think so, but that's the only other possibility, really, right?
Well, I think that Erickson is giving us clues because we have. You're right. Yes, Anrak is missing an arm. Sibel is missing an arm, and
she's missing a lot. She got cut in half.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Karsa left parts of her there.
True.
And Troll, as he makes his way into the cave, saw Anrak in a fire, engulfed by rainbow-hued flames, which I'm assuming is Talan. And then once he was able to get back on his feet, the air was hot as a forge. So I think that forge and the standing in fire are meant to bridge the pair of hands grasping his shoulders. I think that is supposed to insinuate that Anrak and Sibel's arm have fused together, and now they are one.
That I guess that makes sense because I was kind of thinking like, well, and now that you're saying that out loud, it doesn't make sense to what I originally thought. Because like even if he was using his other hand to hold on to Sabelle's arm, like they're going to be like on the same shoulder, not like one on each.
Right. So that's what I think happened. Does this put him back in the ritual, though? That's my question. Or is he still outside of it?
Um,
Because the whole reason why he's not part of the ritual anymore is because he's broken, he's damaged, he's flawed. Kind of going back to that. And that is what makes him outside of the ritual. But now, if he's whole, is he back in? What is that doing?
I don't know. I'm not really sure what will become of that.
And
I had
also, it gives me,
I hadn't thought that far.
oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Here's maybe a humorous take. When we were hanging out, we talked about the stranger, right?
Yes.
Okay. Onrak literally has a different hand.
He does.
Okay. All right. No more. No, we don't need to elaborate on that. But yeah, if you're ready to move on, I'm ready to move on as well.
Another little bit of a lengthy one. I don't think this one was as long as your other one.
I was able to cut a lot out because it was a lot of traveling. So yes, it was longer. I think it was like 5 pages total, I think.
Gotcha.
But yeah, section 3 here. Karsa skirted the valley on a makeshift trail, occasionally passing over loose gravel from countless rock slides over the path. He had thought that one of the two he had bulldozed at the cave entrance was a Talani mass. He wasn't surprised, as the caves and the surrounding area he had been in was a holy site for the Amass. The other was not human at all, gray-skinned like the ones on the ship he had killed. He thought that maybe he should retrace his route, as his sword had yet to drink real blood. Karsa saw a trail that cut sharply up out of the valley. It was clear that the 6 Talani mass had not taken this route, which was fortunate for them, because he had lost patience for their endless words. Their actions spoke louder than their words. He reached the crest, and once he was over, he stopped to take in the land before him. No signs of civilization, no evidence at all that this land had ever been broken. The Jhag Odhan stood before him. He knew that this land would capture his heart. Its scale matched Karsa's. Everything was proportional to him. He lifted his sword and told Bayroth and Delam, the sword's name, to witness the Jhag Odhan. He made his way forward. He saw many animals, even a group of small deer. One was unfortunate enough to avoid Karsa's blade. Karsa thought that he would eat well that night. His sword's first thirst for blood was soothed out of necessity instead of that of battle. He wondered how the ghosts of his blade felt about such an anticlimactic beginning. They had lost their voice since joining the stone, but Karsa could imagine what they would have said. He marched on as the day neared dusk. To the west, he saw a herd of Behedrin before vanishing from sight. By the time he had reached where they stood, there was a figure waiting for him. The grasses had been patted into a circle, and a portable container for a fire sat in the middle. Behind it sat a gaunt Jaghut who looked to be on the verge of emaciation. The Jaghut looked up and told Karsa that he would take the deer and cook it. The Jaghut explains that Armala had contacted him, and so he has come to be the Tobal-Kai, as he had done a noble service for Armala. Karsa said that he had no loyalty to the Amass. As the Jaghut began preparing the meat, he told Karsa that it was an expression of the Amass's gratitude for fighting alongside them against the Jaghut tyrants. He explains to Karsa that tomorrow he will lead the Tobal-Kai to one that suffered far worse than either he or Armala. Karsa grunted and said that he sought a jag horse, not an introduction to his friends. The ancient Jaghut chuckled and said that he had forgotten the directness of one such as Karsa, and explained that this Jaghut he would take him to would be able to call out to jag horses, for it was by her hand, that these horses came into existence. Karsa said that she was a breeder then. The ancient Jaghut said that she was a breeder of sorts. Karsa introduced himself to the Jaghut, but the Jaghut already knew, and that Karsa was little different from the Jaghut's, fallen kin, the Jag. Ignorant of Karsa's people's great and noble history, Karsa simply put that he was less ignorant than he used to be. The Jaghut said good, and introduced himself as Sinigig. Sinigig tells Karsa that he is destined for infamy. Karsa tells Sinigig that he doesn't think of so, as his kin likely think he is long dead. The Jaghut says that word travels fast, and the day he returns to northern Janabakis, Karsa would see. Karsa said that he cared not for fame as he once did. Sinigig asked what changed. Karsa simply said his mind. Sinigig laughed again and pointed to a large box and told Karsa there was wine in it. Karsa asked how it got there, being as big as it was. Sinigig said that he didn't bring the box brought him. Karsa thought to himself that this douche was playing mind games. Karsa lifted the lid. The Jaghut told Karsa to pour some wine for them both, as he was about to turn the deer meat in the fire. Karsa wondered if someone brought Sinigig here. Sinigig explained that a Talanimas army marched by here not too long ago. Did they find him? No. He was hidden in this chest. But what about the chest just sitting there, seemingly out of nowhere? Well, my chest was indeed a rock. He figures out that Karsa may be wondering how he could accomplish this venture if the Amas were drawn to Omatos Falak sorcery. He explains in a roundabout way that there was nothing that said Jaghut couldn't use a different majory. Doing so saved them from having the Fork Rule Sale adjudicate, which turned out rather bloody sometimes. Sinigig went on and eventually asked if Karsa understood. Karsa said that what he understood was the deer meat was burning. The Jaghut apologizes for his rambling, as he doesn't get to talk much in the chest of his. Karsa finally handed the Jaghut the wine. Sinigig handed him some deer meat and said that charcoal was good for the Thelamin, as it made the poop appear black, which was good for anyone following him, unless, of course, that person following was an expert on droppings. Karsa asked if such experts existed. Sinigig said he didn't know, as he didn't get out much. He explains to Karsa that not knowing what he's missed means that he cannot miss what he doesn't know. He tells Karsa that Armala was the one that sought that type of knowledge, and look what that got her. He gets distracted by telling Karsa to drink more wine, as the bottle never empties. He asked Karsa where he had left off. Karsa said that he left off by not getting out of the box. Sinigig starts his rant over that he had been raving about before getting distracted. Sinigig's a weird dude.
Isn't Karsa's grandfather named Sinig?
Maybe.
Do you
I
think
don't
this
remember.
is somehow like a distant relative? Or just a similar name? I thought it was Sinig.
I think, isn't that his dad's name?
Oh, is it his dad?
Hulk, I think, is his grandfather's name.
Oh, and Sinig is his dad? Is it with an S or a C?
I think it's with an S.
Oh, okay. So it's just a similar name.
Do I want to look it up? Karsa's dad in House of James. Sinig. Yep. Synyg.
Okay, so it's just similar.
And Polk. All right. There we go. We teamworked that one. So I didn't have actually a ton of thoughts for this particular section, just because it was purely conversational, and very, Karsa was traveling. I really enjoyed the sense of scale, because I can imagine that people who suffer from dwarfism, right, have to live in a world that is a lot larger than they are, right? Everything is not proportionate to them unless they're in their own home where things are proportionate and it's easier for them. I would imagine that the opposite exists for Karsa, and everything is just super tiny to him. But here he crusts this thing and he sees the Jhag Odhan, and everything is just perfectly proportionate to him. And just that sense of scale was just so cool to imagine.
I did not think about that. It's an interesting thought.
I don't know why I didn't comment that, but it's just something that I have here.
Sure.
But my first actual thought that I wrote down is, Synagig tells Karsa that he is destined for infamy. Now, I don't know if that is maybe if it was meant to be famous, but I don't really like the sound of infamy because infamy means that you're well known for doing something bad. And given this context of destined, tells me that the event hasn't happened yet.
I would maybe push back a little bit, and I think of like who was the president said D-Day. Well, this will be a day that lives in infamy, which was obviously or not D-Day, Pearl Harbor, which obviously that was like a terrible thing, right? But I think there's some positives to that as far as how you react to it.
So you think he will do something to right a wrong?
Maybe.
I mean, I guess righting a wrong doesn't seem bad.
I think it's complicated. That's probably the easiest way. Because, yeah, obviously, like in my example, yeah, Pearl Harbor was not a good thing.
But it brought America into World War II.
Yeah, but how do people like rally around that?
Yeah.
That type of deal. Probably not a perfect example, but like I hear the word infamy, and that's instantly what my mind goes to is that.
I mean, that's fair. I don't think it's necessarily the infamy that gets me, it's the destined. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of the consequences of the infamous act, I think that whatever has taken place has not happened yet. So I think that whether that's this book or later on in the series, Karsa is going to do something bad. And as you're saying, the comparison to Pearl Harbor, maybe the consequences from that are good. But I think the act itself is what's got my mind.
Interesting. I like our different thoughts on this.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I guess the hard part for me is that I can't predict Karsa.
No, not at all. I don't know what the heck he's going to do in the rest of this book. I don't have the slightest clue what he's going to do.
Exactly. So I think that is what makes him super dangerous, is that he's just so unpredictable, even for us readers.
Like I almost would not be surprised if we didn't see him the rest of the book, because this kind of feels like it could be a good stopping point for him.
Think so?
Like I think there's more story for him for sure, but I could see because the first part of that book was all Karsa.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not even in the last sub-book at all. This feels like, to me, it could be a good stopping point for it to be picked up in another book. I don't know that will happen.
The sub-book that we're about to enter literally is the House of Chains. And then, I mean, he's the central character. I mean, everybody in this book so far has some type of chain, but I think Karsa is kind of the main focus. So I mean, maybe you're right. It does kind of seem like it's a good stopping point, right? Like he gets his horse, which we'll read on. That's no big surprise, but he gets his horse and maybe that's it. And then just later on in the series, he shows up on a horse. Yeah. I mean, it very well could be a good transition point, transition away from him.
I don't know that I think it's super likely that it'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
I guess we'll just have to read and find out.
That's twice. I feel like it's usually a me thing that I say.
I know. Now it's me shutting you down.
Sorry.
It's all good. I don't feel shut down. I'm just being a dick.
You're good.
And then they talk about Karsa's like, I don't know about that, because people probably think back home that I'm long dead. And Synagig says that, word travels fast, and there would be a day when he returns to Northern Genebacus and Karsa would see. And I mean, this is obviously foreshadowing here, but maybe he'll wipe out his own people.
You think Karsa's going to wipe out his own people?
Maybe. I don't know why. I can't really stem anything to it. I'm just putting infamy, and then he's talking about returning. So maybe...
I have an idea. I have an idea that...
Let's hear it.
So finish your thought.
I was just going to say, Maybe Karsa kills his own people because they have sided with the lowlanders or something. I don't
I think the only thing I could see where maybe this would happen is if, Karsa tells them that the seven are not gods. And they're
Ooh,
like, you are blasphemous.
right.
That's what I could see maybe in that case. So I don't know. That would be my idea.
Maybe. Yeah, well, I guess we'll read on and find out.
Probably wouldn't be anything
Eventually,
I'd
we'll
put
get an answer.
probably wouldn't be anything I'd put a pie on.
No, and no. Let's not go there.
Yeah, we had the opportunity for a pie and we didn't do it.
I know. It's okay.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
we will.
My next comment was the fork rule of sale adjudicating, and I know that we briefly talked about it, but it seems like the fork rule of sale came to help the Jaghut from the vengeful wrath of the Anas. But this also explains why Calm was stuck underneath this rock the whole time. The Amas did it to her. Stop him from intervening. Last thought, Synagig said that he doesn't know, or that he didn't know if poop experts existed because he didn't get out much. And I just loved the dry sense of humor kind of at the end here, because it seems like he lives his life inside of a box.
Yeah.
Really weird, because as I was reading this chapter again before a little soccer game, I got to this part, and on the covers of Memory, or on the cover of Midnight Tides, is what?
Which version are we talking about?
The newer ones, the newer paperback.
Like the ones we have?
Yeah.
It's like a square house or something, right?
I thought it was a chest. Isn't it a chest?
In like the ocean or something. Yeah, I guess I always thought that was like a fucking like house or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a chest. I don't think that they're related. That's what it reminded me of.
Dude, why is there there's like 20 different covers for this book? Because there's the one that we found. Which one did we pick up? I pick up this last weekend.
It's the one with the like dragon, I think, on the front.
The skull thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones with like the dudes with the spears or whatever coming out of the ocean. And then there's this one that we're looking at in like two different color variations.
Yep.
So maybe not 20. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
It's all good. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. I loved his dry sense of humor. The box reminded me of the cover of Midnight Tides, which I don't think that they're related in any means. It just the way that he's describing this box is rather large, and a large box with waves rolling up behind it made me assimilate the two, I guess. I don't really know.
I can see it. All right. My last section here, and then you got a shorty after that. A single tree stood atop of a hill that was abutted to a larger hill. It was sheltered from the winds, and so the tree grew and grew. Branches as large as Karsa's thighs were present. Synagig asked Karsa if he thought it was old, and that Karsa had really no idea how old it actually was. Had he seen one like it before? He doubted it. The tree was an elder species, just a sapling when there was an inland sea here. Perhaps Karsa thought it was tens of thousands of years old. Nope. Try hundreds of thousands of years. At one time, these were one of the most populous trees in the world. But all things have their own time, and once that time is finished, they vanish. Karsa said, yet this tree had not vanished. Synagig said that was a good observation, and if Karsa had any idea why it was still here. Karsa said he wasn't going to bother to ask because he knew Synagig would tell him anyways. Synagig said he was helpful. He was the helpful kind after all, but the tree's reason would soon be made clear. They made it to flat ground and were under the shade of the tree. Karsa could now see that the tree's branches were all wound in spider webs, clear no matter how thick they were woven. There was also the face of a Jaghut staring back at Karsa. Synagig addressed Fearless and said, this is the one who Aramala spoke of, the one who searched for a worthy horse. The Jaghut's body was visible throughout the tree, indicating that it had in fact grown around her. Synagig said he would tell Karsa her story, if only for its remarkability. Karsa heard her reply in his head. It was a soft voice that said, of course he would. It was not in his nature to leave any word unsaid. Sinigig said it was an extraordinary story where the truth remains beyond them all. Sinigig told the story about how Fearless's mother was killed, and Fearless was dealt with in an unusual manner as well, stuck to a spear that was stuck into the ground. The spear made of native wood leached what it could from Fearless, so was reborn. Roots into the ground, branches into the air. It became a symbiotic relationship. Karsa leaned on his sword and said, yet she was the maker of Jhag horses. Fearless said it was a small role as her blood played into their longevity. They breed infrequently, not even enough to sustain their numbers. Karsa said he knew back in his homeland they took care of what must be Jhag horses. Fearless was pleased by this because they are being hunted into extinction in the Jhag Odhan. Karsa asked by who? She said by his kin, the Trell. Karsa replied by saying, a Trell, like Mappo? Fearless said yes. He travels with a Carrium, who has arrows made from her branches. Whenever he visits, he doesn't remember their last encounter, and again asks for her heartwood to fashion a device to measure time. Her heartwood will outlast anything else. Karsa asks if she gives it to him. Fearless said no, because it would kill her, so she bargains with him. A shaft for a bow, branches for arrows. Karsa asked if she had no way to defend herself. She told him, against a Carrium, no one had a way to defend themselves. Karsa revealed that he had an argument with a Carrium, and neither of them lost. His weapon was made of wood, but now he has a new weapon. The next time they meet, not even Mappo's treachery would save a Carrium. Both the Jhag were silent until Karsa realized Fearless was talking to Sinigig because he could see his expressions change. Sinigig finally said she would call upon the closest herd, the lone herd that has come close to this area, answering her first call. She had hoped for more, but it just may be evidence of how few remain. Karsa asked how many were in the herd. Fearless said she did not know, likely no more than a dozen. Karsa heard their hooves and looked up. He said it was more than a dozen. The ground shook and there was thunder all around them. There were hundreds of horses, bigger than what Karsa was used to back home. Hundreds turned into thousands. There was enough dust, corkscrewing in the air to challenge the whirlwind itself. The horses formed a half ring. Karsa said he did not think Fearless needed to worry about them going extinct. He had never seen so many foals and yearlings. There must be 15,000, and he could not even see all of them. Sinigig said Karsa spoke true. The herds had joined together and have come far to answer the summons. But not Fearless's call, Karsa's. Now he must choose. Fearless asked Karsa what kind of wood his past weapon was. He said ironwood, bloodwood. Fearless said, and blood oil? They could smell it. Karsa said he didn't have any. She told him it was in his veins. Bloodwood had not existed in the Jhag Odhan for thousands of years, yet the horses remember it. Karsa walked among the horses, careful not to show his teeth, careful not to be seen as a predator. They would be able to kill him easily. He saw a stallion that was the dominant one, separate from the others. Karsa said he would not take him, as the herd needed him more than he did. He found another just entering adulthood, gray eyes and a mane and tail that were white, not black. Karsa touched the horse, claiming him, and said that its name was Havoc. Karsa led it away from the others. The dominant one screamed, and the rest of the horses dispersed into smaller groups and ran out into the heartland of the Jhag Odhan. Sinigig told Karsa not even a Jag hut could have claimed a Jag horse, so he did not think about a Theloman Toblikai horse warrior being possible. I don't know why that's a tongue twister for me. How is it his kind had not conquered Genabacchus? Karsa said they would one day. Sinigig said Karsa would be the one that would lead them. Karsa agreed, and Sinigig told him they had witnessed the birth of infamy. Karsa thought yes. and he was a witness, and what he shaped, no one could imagine. This was probably my favorite section. And obviously, like, I condensed it down, right? But just this whole thing was really cool. Just seeing, just like visualizing in my mind 15,000 or more horses just like herding. Like, it was really cool. The only thing I can think of, like, as a comparison, when we were in high school, I went down to Costa Rica with Andre. You remember Andre?
Yep.
And his family. His sister was she was studying abroad and she was in college down there. And we went down to go visit her. And we went out deep sea fishing one day. And we were going from like one spot to another. And just suddenly there was hundreds of dolphins around us as we were like boating from one spot to another. And like we had like the disposable cameras. I don't even know what happened to any of these pictures. I don't know if they exist anywhere anymore, if they got tossed or what. But like me and him were just snapping pictures because just literally it's like surrounding us as we were in this boat, like 360 degrees. There's hundreds of them, maybe more than 1,000. I don't know, but they're all just leaping out of the water. It was really cool, and that's the only like comparison I could think. But just like that visual was really strong for me.
Wow, had no idea.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Except then I got really sick coming back home. Yeah, they thought like my mom took me to the doctor after I got back because they thought like they were doing all these tests. They thought I had like malaria.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, dude, I was really sick. Probably the sickest I've ever been.
Oh,
This other Jag, I don't know how you said her name, but Fearless is what I came up with.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I had it in my mind, but we'll go with that.
If anybody would like to correct us, feel free, but that's just kind of what I got out of it in my mind. I got a couple thoughts here. My first one, I really liked, like Sinigig is like, oh, do you want to know why this tree is still here? And Karsa's like, you're just going to tell me anyway, so I'm not even going to ask. I just, kind of that dry sense of humor a little bit again, just that straightforwardness. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked how Karsa, I don't know, I could just kind of imagine him like, oh, you're going to tell me anyway, so.
And then we get this story about how Fearless's mother is killed, and just like immediately, like, I'm like, oh shit, is this the prologue for Memories of Ice? But then I was like, no, this is like a totally different place. But that's just where my mind went immediately.
Right, yeah, to the trauma, right? What we know of that scene. I mean, I think, I don't know if that's the intention. I would say that if it wasn't, most people are going to think of that prologue.
I definitely did. I don't know if you did, but I for sure did. Yeah,
because you do what it's all. I guess I would call it like a reading double take, right? So you're immediately recalled to the prologue of Memories of Ice, but as you keep reading, you're like, no, that's not the prologue of Memories of Ice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like, yeah, it's like a double take. You're like, oh, but it's the pain and the suffering that was captured in the prologue that you are reminded of. And I think that's kind of the point, that brutality.
Yeah, because what she went through was pretty rough.
Right.
Just like a spear through like your shoulder blade into the ground and you're just a kebab.
From what I understand, she was a child.
Yeah, dude, that's brutal. Talk about a way to ruin your life.
But is this nature having sympathy?
No, I don't think so. Not at all. Like giving her life?
Yeah. Like in exchange for, symbiotic, as it said in the book. Like a symbiotic relationship where...
I still don't see really any sympathy there. It's still just brutal to me.
No, I meant nature. I meant like nature itself sympathizing with this poor child. Therefore, in exchange for its or her life, it gives it balance, right? Give and take, right?
I still stand by what I said. I mean, nature can be brutal. We've seen video, like a lion taking down a baby gazelle or whatever it is, like it's brutal. And it's just me, but I don't see any sympathy there or anything like that.
So what would you call the act of the spear giving its life in exchange for her life?
Just a byproduct, I guess.
You're stuck together, so We thrive together.
I don't think there was any intent for that to happen. It was, to me, it reads to me that it was accidental.
Ah, okay. All right.
That's just my
Just
thoughts.
looking for your thoughts.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts as to why the Trell are hunting these horses into extinction? I've got nothing. I have nothing, so I'm curious as to what you think.
I would agree with your nothing sentiment. The only thing that I can think of or conjure is that I don't know if you summarized it, but Fearless says that the Trell are distant kin of the Thelem and Toblakai, which makes me think that they're older than the Toblakai. And so my guess is that they're hunting them because that's what they always did before the Thelem and Toblakai came along and instead of hunting them, started riding them.
I guess you got me kind of thinking, and so maybe it's, they also say, they don't breed very frequently, so it's, maybe they're not even intentionally hunting them into extinction. It's just, maybe they take however many a year, but the numbers aren't replenishing or something.
Right. And they're probably just unaware of the fact that they don't breed very often. It kind of goes against nature.
Good teamwork there, I think.
I'm sure we're both incredibly wrong,
Yeah.
but we'll find out.
It sounds good now.
That's all that matters.
This dust corkscrewing in the air to challenge the whirlwind. I just thought that was a really cool visual.
Yeah, I did too. I just think of all of the tornado movies that I've ever seen in my life.
Twister.
Yep.
Sharknado.
Yep.
There's like 30
Minus
of those.
The sharks. Minus the sharks.
Sinnig said Karsa spoke true. Their herds have joined together and have come from afar to answer the summons. So I said, makes me think of early on in the book when it talks about the true fight being the balance of nature, or I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but now it appears that Karsa has nature on his side. I guess I don't remember exactly what I was thinking when I wrote.
Well, I would agree with whatever your thoughts were, even if you can't recall them, because there's kind of been this like thing that's been alluding to like Raraku, embodied in Karsa or vice versa. So nature kind of taking back the wrong done to it. You know what I mean?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Last thought here. Karsa, Sinigig told them they'd witnessed the birth of infamy. Karsa thought, yes, he was a witness, and what he shaped, no one could imagine. Man, what like a last sentence there. But I just feel like Karsa's got some pretty big plans, but I wonder how those plans are going to play out, because it just makes me think of that. I don't remember who said it. Was it Mike Tyson or something? Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face. Or something to that effect,
Yeah.
But who's going to punch Karsa back in the face? I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, this line where they had witnessed the birth of infamy, right? I feel like that kind of ties back into our previous conversation. So do you think that, as maybe you surmised, maybe he conquers Genabacchus or tries to, but who else is on Genabacchus right now?
Like everybody else.
So is this just another war with, Malazan and the Teblor? Are they just gonna like make their name known and start fucking up Lacine's plans?
I don't know. It's hard to imagine, like, even if they're not as nasty as Karsa, like an army of Teblor.
Giant fucking, yeah, exactly.
I mean, we saw what 3 of them could do to a town. Just imagine if you had 1,000 of them.
But also, Malazan is doing what to these cities?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
They're conquering cities, right?
They freed them from like the Pani and Doman.
Just the lower, like the southern area, sure. But there's still, from what I understand, Darujistan is the only city left on the entire continent that is not controlled by the Malazans.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really thought of that.
So, what does Karsa absolutely loathe? What does he fucking hate?
I'm not sure.
Stilgar, right? Like he hates slave masters, right? Being forced against your will, blah blah blah. So, and that's exactly what the Malazans did to all of Genebacus. They have now stolen, taken cities, and now these people are just, yeah, cool. I guess we got to do what you want us to do. And he does have an issue with the Malazans.
It seems like I don't even know if I would say a love-hate relationship.
Infamy, Karsa, it tells me something bad is going to happen. I just don't know what. I don't know the details. Maybe there are small droplets of breadcrumbs here and there. I don't know what they are.
Well,
We ready to take it home?
Yeah, wrap it up here. You're shorty.
Yeah. Synagig sat in the shade of the tree that housed Fearless. It was getting close to dusk. Karsa had left with his chosen horse. The herds had vanished, leaving the landscape barren as it was before. Synagig cut up some deer from the night before and offered it to Fearless, saying it was a gift for his dear sister. She asked if it was slain by that horrendous stone sword. Synagig said that it was. Fearless replied that it was a bounty to feed her spirit. Synagig sighed and then said that Fearless has done a good job of hiding the remains. Fearless replies that the foundation survives, all beneath her cloak of soil. Synagig said that the Amass were foolish to drive a spear into the grounds of the Azath house. I get it. Now that explains the trading of lives. Fearless asked what the Amass knew of houses. They were creatures that lived and thrived in caves. Besides, the Azath was already dying and had been for years, fatally wounded. She recalls that Icarium was on his knees by the time he delivered the mortal blow. He raved with madness. Had his Toblakai companion not delivered a blow to knock the Jag unconscious? Synagig adds that Icarium would have succeeded in freeing his father, but Icarium's father had no desire in being saved, thus weakening the fabric of the house, enough for the warren to be torn apart. Karsa had surprised them. Fearless suspects that they are not the first victims of a mistaken belief regarding the Toblakai. Synagig said that he doubts that they would be the last to suffer the shock. Fearless asked Synagig if he sensed the 6 Talani mass spirits hovering behind the hidden wall. He replies yes, and that they were servants of the crippled god. He thinks that they would tell Karsa something for which they seek to guide the Templar, but they dared not approach, as the Azath made them shake in their boots. Fearless tells him that the house is dead, and all that survived of its lifeblood have moved into its spear. Not the house they feared, but Karsa Arlong himself. Synagig said that and that the Amass were not so foolish after all.
So my question here, and maybe just in your summary, might have kind of answered it, but I was wondering, like, the 7 or the 6 now. But how do you think, like, how does he tell the difference between them and, like, Anrek?
How does who?
Karsa. And I guess I think from your summary here, probably the key word now that I heard it is spirit. But then at the same time, like, this sword just cut a spirit in half. Like, to me, like, a spirit isn't necessarily like a physical thing.
Right.
So I don't know. So how are these 7 different than Anrek?
Well, at the beginning of the chapter, Karsa looks up after he's forming his sword and he's just like, you truly are here. As in, like, I feel like it is their physical forms. So I don't know to answer your question, but I think that spirits is just a descriptor at this point in time. It's not necessarily an embodiment of their physical state.
Okay. I feel like it's kind of a hard question.
Yeah. I mean, and it's very specific. I think that he's just referring to them because they are or were essentially spirits. I mean, they're dead, right? They have died and they have been reunited with their corpses. So they're still undead, is my guess.
I'm sorry to put you on
Um,
this. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
no, I like it when I can't answer shit. My first thought in this section is, I thought this whole thing with the deer was very strange. Like, why is Erickson making a point about the deer? Karsa killing it, Synagig cooking it, burning it, and now offering it to his sister. And then it kind of made me think, like, okay, well, Synagig earlier in my last section, and I didn't really summarize it, kind of explains that the deer are very good at hiding and are unable to be pursued because they never take the same trail twice. And
They
I'm
don't even
wondering,
make trails.
right, they don't even make them exactly. And I'm wondering if the Eris deer have something to do with how well they're able to hide super well, like the Jaghut. Because they seem to be like Synagig in my previous section seem to be awfully critical about the state of the Eris skin. So I'm wondering if maybe they were able to tap into how well they're able to hide, and that is how they're able to hide in a box, and how a box is able to look like a rock to people just passing by. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I did not draw any comparisons at all between that. It was not
Is it
even.
really? Does it make sense, or is that like way? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I see it, but I didn't think of it at all. That's all.
As long as you see it, then I'm not crazy.
I mean, he still could be.
Shh. I want to talk about that. This whole part where Fearless replies that it was a bounty to feed her spirit, like a reward. And I'm gonna go with she doesn't get to eat ever, right? But
Probably not
that
much,
also
yeah.
makes me think, how do they survive without eating? And I'm gonna go with sorcery is probably involved there too. So I would imagine that that is indeed a reward. Getting to eat. Probably haven't eaten in how long?
Well, I wonder how much like she is a part of this tree, because what does a tree need? Just needs water and sunlight.
Right. Exactly.
But obviously she's like, yeah, I don't know, because she's not chewing. It's just like plopping down at her feet, basically.
So this part where Synagig compliments Fearless for doing a good job of hiding the remains, she replies that the foundation survives all beneath her cloak of soil. And is this, to me, it kind of seemed, and kind of my revelation as I'm summarizing, which I thought was crazy. This part where the Amass were foolish to drive a spear into the grounds of the Azath house. That seems 100% coincidental that they would spear a child Jaghut on the grounds of an Azath house. So therefore, that answered my question. The Azath house traded its life with hers, and they both formed a symbiotic relationship with it.
Yeah, I got the sense that the IMS didn't know.
Right. But this Azath house, I'm assuming, was hidden. And so it seems purely coincidental that they drove a spear into it,
Yes, I agree.
which I don't know. I guess I don't really see that too much in this series, right?
No,
There's
yeah, I
usually a
don't think
purpose
so.
for almost everything, right?
Well, and the purpose was so that Ikariam's dad didn't get loose, is kind of what I got.
Right.
And he didn't want to anyways, but from what
Which
we're told.
broke the Azath, right? Does that mean
And then fucked up a worm.
right?
What one?
But in Deadhouse Gates, he's in Tremolor. So did he just switch Azath houses, or is this Tremolor
We saw Ikariam's dad there? I don't remember that.
at the very end? Remember when they enter Tremolor, they find Tasim Altor's daughter.
I remember
There's a
that.
Kache Jamal guardian to be that was at the gates, and Moby essentially took over as guardian. And then they I remember it being like, I don't know, it looked like some type of library, or I don't even fucking know, but it was Gothos. Gothos at the end of Dead House Gates.
Gothos is Zakarium's dad?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
I mean, it's been a minute. I almost kind of feel like maybe I'm making shit up, but I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Well, somebody's...
Gothos is Zakarium's dad because we know that his uncle is Gethel, who was in Memories of Ice as the former knight of the crippled god.
He got slashed in the face, or he slashed somebody's face.
Something like that. Yeah. He tried to recruit Brucalion.
Yes. My guy, Brucalion.
Your guy. Next thought. I didn't catch this until I was summarizing, but they talk about Akarium being on his knees as he delivered the mortal blow, raving with madness, and his Toblakai companion not delivered a blow to knock the Jag unconscious. That's a reoccurring theme. Akarium always seems like he's getting hit in the fucking head. As I recall, Mappo during Dead House Gates explains to Akarium that he was not his only companion and that there were others. So this kind of explains Akarium and Teblor / Tobakai's relationship a bit. The two cultures must have been a close-knit community, or the Jag, meaning that the Jag are half Toblakai and half Jag Hut. My guess is the Trell, the Toblakai / Teblor, and Akarium are very close-knit communities. I just thought that was cool, and I don't even know how I remembered that. That Mappo was not his first companion, and that there had been others.
Well, you're pretty good at remembering specifics of chapters, so...
Sometimes. My last thought is Fearless tells Sinigig that the house is dead, and all that survived of its lifeblood had moved into its spear. I'm assuming that this is the spear that essentially took the Jag Hut child, right? Or is she talking about Karsa's sword? They're talking about the Six and how they're afraid of Sinigig assumes the house, but Fearless is like, no, all of the lifeblood is actually in the spear, and the house itself is dead. They're afraid of Karsa. But I'm confused. Is she insinuating that the spirit of the dying Azath house lives with Bayroth and Delim? Spirit in the sword of Karsa? Or is that the spear that she was killed with?
I think it was the spear that she was killed with.
Because they feed off of each other.
Yeah.
Right? And then the tree grew around them.
Right.
But she's still hiding the physical house of the Azath. Even though it's dead. Yes.
Whatever's left of it, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I understood that, because that was really cool. And also, like, Karsa, the thought of him with lifeblood from an Azath and a sword, fucking, that would do some Akarium like damage. But yeah, those are all my thoughts.
We're on the home stretch here, man.
Yes, we are.
Hopefully we can finish this book up here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're moving on to chapter 18?
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting there. We'll be like almost halfway through 700, and then I'll have like 250-ish pages left.
Something like that.
It's not too much. Not too much at all.
Probably not going to do any reading tonight, but
I probably won't either. I'll probably save it for tomorrow.
I'm not sure if I'll have a chance tomorrow or really this weekend at all, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, do you have any thoughts, predictions?
Dude, I hope the rest of this book is just, I'm still waiting for my battle with the Malazans and the Whirlwind. I think we're going to get it, and I think it's going to be brutal. It's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be real nasty. Yeah. Well,
I think if I had to guess, the next chapter, if my theory is correct, we'll go back to strings in them. So I think we'll get maybe some Whirlwind stuff.
Well, looks like we get some. Oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of scanning this next chapter. I don't really. Tavor or Fellison. I don't know. Something.
All right.
That'll be a good start.
Yeah, I hope it kind of, flips perspectives throughout this chapter. I mean, 40 pages is a lot. So hopefully we get some unique perspectives all around.
I'm excited to keep going for sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice to catch up with Haborik and the Whirlwind Camp, Shaik, hopefully Lorik, and dare I say, Fellows and Younger.
I really have no idea how this is going to wrap up. Not at all.
I'm assuming some giant confrontation, but
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just definitely
where the intricate parts go. That's the question.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like, especially in like Deadhouse Gates and even kind of Memories of Ice, like we kind of had an idea where things were headed, but this I really just don't.
Well, right, yeah, because those books were almost kind of linear, whereas this is a little bit more open world, right?
Which is fine, and I don't have a problem with that. Like,
I don't either.
It's just less, I guess, it's just less predictable.
For sure. I guess, time will tell, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. I don't know if I have anything else to say.
I don't have anything else to say in the chapter.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk to you again.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in and hanging out with us. We're glad you're here for the ride. And we're still going.
Hell yeah. See you all around.
See you, everybody. Thanks.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.